So, welcome back. Let's explore another theoretical device. The idea of positive versus normative science. Okay. Now, it's it has to do with scientific literature. It's not merely limited to economics, but it plays a big role in economics because economics somehow relates directly to policy making. Okay, so let's look at them one by one first. Positive statements try to describe the world as the world exists, okay, as it is, not as it should be. That is the job of normative statements or claims. Okay. Now, the idea positive essentially doesn't mean anything to do with, it doesn't have anything to do with positive thinking or anything like that, or something that has a positive outcome. No, it's just a term. Okay. It comes from actually a person, not really one person, but a school of thought which is called as positivistic thinking. If you get into philosophy, you'll hear the name of Frege, Wittgenstein, Bertrand Russell, these mathematicians and logicians, people who set down logic. They tried to define a system and how an idea can be accurately expressed. However, that's not the topic of discussion, but anyway, I'm just giving you a background that positive statements are essentially the world as it exists in terms of facts, something that can be recorded, okay, and empirically verified, okay, something that can be verified, not something that is based on values or culture of individuals, something that can be verified, something that can be empirically verified. Okay, again, sorry about the handwriting. So, but as I'm speaking, I'm hoping you understand what I'm trying to write. Something that can be empirically verified. So, for example, why is it important? First of all, something like in order to predict things. So in science, in physical sciences, STEM fields as they're called, you have to accurately predict. If you want to launch a spaceship, you have to accurately predict what the variables are going to be, and you have to be absolutely on the edge. So that's like the most cutting edge of, because you can't even go wrong by, let's say, a millisecond or even the smallest of measurement. Okay, so there's something to be said about positive statements. So they describe, positive statements describe the world as they are. On the other hand, normative statements are more or less value judgments. Okay, what are value judgments? Value judgments are something like there shouldn't be poverty. Okay, people should be taken care of, or employers should pay fair wages to employees with which they can sustain their lives and give decent education and basic necessities of life to their children. So these are the ideas that normative side of philosophy expresses. So something like welfare economics. Okay, welfare economics, the basic premise of welfare economics is that people should have human, basic decent human life compared to what is in the rest of the world, and how we can theorize to achieve that. That's the idea of welfare economics. Okay, what can be done to achieve certain basic objectives which should be culturally and defined based on value judgments. Either they are culturally defined and they're defined in terms of tradition and value judgments, and what can be done to make the world a better place. So that's the idea which can be called as a normative idea. Alright. On the other hand, how much resources can be invested efficiently to make efficient production and not let any factor of production go to waste, something like a positive statement. Okay, and there's a lot of debate, because you have to understand, because economics or literature in economics has a direct bearing on policy making. I'm not saying that policy makers take guidance directly from economists, but economics does provide a theoretical justification to a policy making, or it can be a catalyzer, or a reason, a cause for a particular type of policy making. So one has to be very wary and cautious that even though something is positivistic in orientation, it might always be associated, or it might always have some kind of hidden political agenda also. And the same goes with normative statements. So something like climate change debate, for example. Now it's a highly politically laced debate and highly politically laced arguments that are presented by either side of the climate change arguments. Okay, so something like Paris Climate Agreement. Okay, so Paris Climate Agreement says we need to impose carbon credits on those who produce a lot of carbon dioxide, because we are operating on the assumption that CO2 creates greenhouse effect. Now, positivistic statement, people can always say that, okay, first tell us that greenhouse effect in fact is causing climate change and it's causing heating, and basically it's a very hot, it becomes a hot topic for debate, and there is, like I said, that it is laden with just political dynamite. It's a very sensitive issue, and it essentially is sensitive because people not only judge policy based on what is most efficient or what is factual, but also they make emotional judgments about things. And let's take a much more simpler example, something like wage. Fair wages should be paid to everyone, even though there are more workers. People who are employed should get decent enough wage to further their life, basically to have a basic semblance of a lifestyle. And these are the differences between positivistic statements and normative statements, and there is a constant tussle between these two school of thoughts. One thing is there that I'm not saying that positivistic statements are free of political bias. That's not really true. I'm not saying that normative statements are free of political bias. They are actually full of political bias, both of them. And that is why, but mostly the debate between normative and positivistic school of thought has to do with something that a positivistic statement can be empirically verified to be true or false. So the political agenda behind it, whatever that political agenda may be, can be proven or disproven. Now there might be forces who are stopping people from proving or disproving it, like there are a lot of physicists and even Nobel laureates for that matter, who are saying that the climate change agenda is a lot of politically driven agenda, and they're trying to empirically disprove it. However, Paris Climate Agreement says that we're going to make money off of it. We're going to take we are going to find those nations who are producing more carbon, and it's you don't have to judge it scientifically, or their normative claims are colored with a positivistic sort of statement. So like I said, that you don't, I mean, of course I'm not I'm not telling you to make up your mind about the Paris Climate Agreement or climate change or issues like that. What I'm trying to explain to you is there's a basic difference, but and the basic difference is that in the methodology. Okay, the methodology of both these, and it's not like there are distinct school of thoughts. So even in welfare economics there are there are positivistic statements. The methodology could be positive or it could be normative. It's not necessary that just because it is welfare economics it has to be always normative, but the clash is always there. The only good thing about positivistic statements is that they can be empirically proven or disproven. Normative statements carry much more of a political weight. So that's the minor difference between, or rather we can say major difference between these two, even though both could be politically motivated. Alright. So that's just a basic, sort of a side note. As we're gonna discuss more and more, these two terms are going to come up, and so instead of explaining it over there, I'm explaining it in a separate video. So that's it. Thank you.